Hey guys, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to show you how to play a fingerstyle arrangement of The Night We Met. So let's get into it. So first of all, we are in standard tuning and you need to put a capo on the 2nd fret of your guitar. All the tabs for this lesson are available on my Patreon page. You can check out the link down below. So I've divided this song into 5 different parts. We have the intro, the verse, the pre-chorus, the chorus, and then we have the outro. So let's start with the intro. It sounds like this. So the first chord that we have is this one. So it's actually a part of an E minor chord, but we don't need these two because we're not playing anything on those 2 strings. So we just need this part. You just need to play that one note on the 3rd fret of the high E string, and on the right hand you're plucking the low E string, G string, B string and the high E string. Like that. After that we have a D major chord. You have the open D string, the 2nd fret of the G string, the 3rd fret of the B string, and the 2nd fret of the high E string. So you're plucking the D string, G string, B string, and the high E string together. After that we have this. It's actually a part of a G major chord. You need to just play this note on the 3rd fret of the low E string. And you need to also play the open D, G, and B string. Those 3. So with the low E string, sounds like that. So the way you play these chords is you actually have to hold them down for a specific number of beats. So just keep this in mind. The first chord that you play, the E minor chord, you have to hold that down for 6 beats. After that, the next chord that you play, the D major, if you play that for 3 beats, and the 3rd chord, the G major, you hold that down for 12 beats. So I'll show you how it sounds if I count the beats and play the chords along with it. So I'll start with the first chord, E minor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And after that you have 3 more chords. The first one is a regular E minor chord. You're playing the 2nd fret of the A string and the 2nd fret of the D string. On the right hand you're plucking the low E string, D string, G string and the B string together. Like that. G and B are open. And after that you have a D major chord again, which you played before, but you have to add this little note in the end and then change to the C major chord. So you start by plucking the D major chord first, and then you hammer on onto the 3rd fret of the high E string. And while holding onto that note, you change to the C major chord. So again, the change sounds like this. And on the C major chord, I'm playing the 3rd fret of the A string, the 2nd fret of the D string, the open G string, the 1st fret of the B string, and the 3rd fret of the high E string. I'm plucking the A string, G string, B string, and the high E string. Like that. And here you count similarly, so you hold the E minor chord for 6 beats, and then the D major chord for 3 beats, and the C major chord for 12 beats. Same as before. And if I play the whole thing till here, it should sound like this. So that's actually the first half of the intro. On the second half you have the exact same chords, but you just need to arpeggiate each of them. So the second half of the intro sounds like this. So you have the exact same chords. You start with that E minor chord. Play it like this. So you start by playing the low E string, then the G string, and then the B string. And then you skip one string, and then you play the high E string, B string, and then the G string. So you have this. And after that you have the D major chord. So there you just need to play the D string, then the G string, and then the B string. Like that. And after that you change to the G major chord and then you play this. So there again you're playing 3 strings ascending. You're playing the low E string, then the D string, and then the G string. And after that you're playing the B, G, and D string. Like that. So you have this. And you just repeat that, so you get this. So far you have this. And after that you have this part. So there, after playing the G major chord, you switch to the regular E minor chord and then you play this. So there you're playing the low E string, D string, G string first. And then you're playing the B string, G string, and then the D string. And then on the D major chord you just play this, same as before, and you change to the C major chord after that. So this time you don't need this note on the high E string, you're just playing the 3rd fret of the A string, the 2nd fret of the D string, open G string, and the 1st fret of the B string. So there again you're playing the A string, G string, and the B string first. And then you're playing the high E string, B string, and then the G string. And you repeat that one more time. So the whole thing slowly sounds like this. And if you add this part to the first half of the intro, you get the whole thing. So the whole intro sounds like this. After that you have the verse, which sounds like this. So the first chord that you need to play sounds like this. It's actually a part of an E minor chord. So you're just playing the 2nd fret of the D string, and you also have the open low E string and the open G string. So what you need to play sounds like this. So you start by plucking the low E string first, and then you pluck the D string and the G string together 3 times. Like that. The G string there is open. So you have this. And after that you pluck the bass note again, and then you pluck the chord again. Like that. So the whole thing sounds like this. And then you have this part. So there you're playing the 2nd fret of the G string there with your index finger, and you're plucking the D string, which is open, and the G string together. And then you pull off from the 2nd fret of the G string to the open G string. And then you play the open G string again. Like that. So far you have this. And after that you have this part. So there you have to play the 3rd fret of the low E string and the 2nd fret of the G string, and you plug them together. and then you hammer on onto the 4th fret of the G string. And you play that note again, the one you hammered on to. Like that. And then you have this, where you're playing the open B string, G string, and then the D string. So you have this. And after that you play the arpeggio again. So from the start you have this. And after that you have this part. So there you start off almost the same way like last time. So you have this. So you start with that same E minor chord and you play this like last time, and then you have this, where you play the low E string once, then the open B string once, like that. So you have this, and then you have this part. Same as before, you pull off from the 2nd fret of the G string, and now you have this part. So there you change to the C major chord and then you play this. So you're playing the A string, G string, B string first, ascending. And then you're playing the E string, B string, G string, descending. Like that. So far you have this. After that you have this part. So you start by playing this part. So there you play the open G string 2 times first, and then you play this part. So you have the same E minor chord again, which you started the last part with, and you play the low E string, D string, and the G string with a roll like this. Like that first, and then you play this. So there you just play the low E string first, then the D string, then the G string. Like that. So the whole thing sounds like this. And after that you just play the low E string once and then the open G string. Like that in the end. So now the whole thing sounds like this. And then you have this part again. Same pull off from the 2nd fret of the G string to the open G string. And after that you have this part. So there you have the same chord as before, but now you have a different kind of idea. You have this. So you start by plucking the low E string and the G string first like before, and then you hammer on onto that note on the 4th fret of the G string, and you play that again, and then you play the B string again. So far we have this, and then you have this part. So there you lift this note up, and now you have the 2nd fret of the G string there, and you play the D string and then the G string. Like that. So from the start you get this. I'll play that again really slow. And after that, to end, you have this part, where you plug the low E string and the G string again like before, and you hammer on to the 4th fret and play that note again, and then just play the open B string once. So from the start you get this. And after that you have this part. there you start by playing the open G string 2 times, and then you have this part where you have that same E minor chord that you had before. You're playing the 2nd fret of the D string there, and you play this. So you plug the low E string, D string and the G string with a roll first, and then you plug them each separately, like that. So you have this, and then you have this part where you just play the low E string which is open, and then the B string which is also open, like that. And then you have this part. So you start by playing a pull off from the 2nd fret of the G string, and then you shift to the C major chord, just like before. So that's the entire verse. I'll play the whole thing once slowly. It sounds like this. After that we have the pre-chorus, which sounds like this. So you start off with this part. So there you're playing the open G string twice first, and then you play this, where you're just playing a roll. You're just holding the 2nd fret of the D string and you're playing the low E string which is open, the D string and then the open G string. You play that with a roll. So you have this. And after that you have this part. So there you're playing the low E string, then the D string, then the G string first, like that. And then you're playing the low E string and then the D string. So you have this. And if you add those two parts, you get this. And after that you have this part. So there you're playing that pull off that you played before from the 2nd fret of the G string. So you're plucking the open D string and the 2nd fret of the G string together, and then you pull off to the open G string, and then you play the open G string again, like that. And then you have this part. So there you're playing a C major 7 chord, which is like this, where you're just playing these two notes. You're playing 3rd fret of the A string, the 2nd fret of the D string, the open G string and the open B string. So you start by playing this, where you're plucking the A string, the open G string and the open B string together, like that. And then you just play the G string and the open B string together. You plug them both. So you have this. So from the start again you have this. And then you have this part. So there you just have to add in this note to make it into a regular C major chord. You're just adding the note on the 1st fret of the B string and you're playing this, where you're playing the E string, then the B string, then the G string. And then you're playing the A string, G string, B string and the high E string in the opposite direction. So from the start you have this. And after that you have this part. So you start by playing this part, where you play the open B string twice, and then you play this. So there you're just holding the second fret of the D string and you're playing a roll. So you're playing the low E string, D string, G string and the B string. The G and B strings are open, so you have this. So the whole thing sounds like this. And after that you have this part. So you have the same thing on the left hand, you're just playing this on the right hand now. You're playing the low E string first, then the D string, and then the open B string. Like that. And then you're playing the low E string and directly the B string. Like that. So if you play the whole thing, it sounds like this. And if you play it from the start, you get that. And after that you have this part. So there you start by playing this, which is the same pull-off that you played before. Play the second fret of the G string and you plug the open D string with it. And then you pull off to the open G string. And then you play the open G string again. And after that you have this part. So there you're playing the third fret of the A string and the second fret of the G string, and you're plucking them both together, and then you pull off from the second fret to the open G string, like that. So you get this, and after that you continue with the chord. So there, right after you played this, you bring these two notes back in and you play the regular C major chord, and then you go back to playing the arpeggio. So from the start we have this. And right after that we have this part. So you start off the same way and you play the same thing that you played before. So up until there it's the same, and then you have this part. So you start off this part the same way that you played before. And then you have this. So up until there, you just repeat what you played before. And then you have this part where instead of pulling off from this note to the open G string, you stay on that note. And then you play this, where you're playing the third fret of the A string and then the second fret of the G string, and then you're pulling off from the G string to the open G string. So you have this, where you're plucking the D string and the G string together, and you're playing the G string again, and then you have this, where you're pulling off. And then you go back to playing the arpeggio again. So that's the entire pre-chorus. I'm going to play the whole thing once. It sounds like this. And after that you have the chorus, which sounds like this. So you start off by playing this. So there you play the open B string twice first. And then you have this, where you're playing the low E string, the G string, B string, and the high E string. All of them are open. You plug them together, like that. So you have this. And then you play the high E string twice, like that. So you get this. After that you have this part. So there you're ringing the chord with a slap, like that. So there's two parts to it. You're using the index finger to play the higher strings. You're playing the G string, B string, and the high E string, all of which are open. You're using this motion to ring the chord. And you're also using the thumb to slap on to the lower strings to get the percussive sound, like that. So you have to play both of them simultaneously to get that sound. So this is one of those things that might be a little difficult to play at first if you're new to this technique, but once you get used to it, it becomes really easy. So you're basically ringing the chord and slapping together at the same time. So you get this. So the whole thing sounds like this. One more time, really slow. So right after you ring the chord with a slap, you have this. So right after you played the slap, you play this note on the 3rd fret of the B string twice, and then you have this. So there you start by playing this chord. You're playing the 2nd fret of the G string and the 3rd fret of the B string there. So you start by playing the open D string first, and then you plug these two. You're plucking the G string and the B string together, and then you pull off from the 3rd fret of the B string to the open B string, like that. So you have this. So from the start you have this. And then you have this part. So right after you played this, you have this part, where you're playing the open B string, then the 2nd fret of the G string. And then you have this. So there you bring in this note on the 3rd fret of the low E string, and then you plug the low E string and the open B string together. And then you play this note, and then pull off to the open G string, like that. So from the start you have this. And then you have this part. So right after you played that pull off, you bring in this note onto the 2nd fret of the A string. So now you're just playing the 3rd fret of the low E string and the 2nd fret of the A string. And you start by ringing the chord with a slap, like that. And this time when you ring the chord, try to focus on the lower 4 strings. So you can mute the B string if you want to with your little finger, like that. So you start by playing it with the slap, like that. And right after you ring the chord with the slap, you have this. So there you're playing the D string and then the A string. And then you play this, where you're playing the low E string, then the A string, and then the D string in the opposite direction. So you have this. And then you ring the chord with a slap again. So the whole thing sounds like this. So if you play it from the start of the chorus, you have this. And after that you have this part. So you start by playing the open G string 3 times. And then you have this, where you're just playing the 2nd fret of the D string, and on the right hand you play the low E string, D string, and then the open G string. So you have this. After that you have this part. So there you slap and ring the chord, and then you play the low E string and then the open B string, both of which are open, like that. So I'll play it again from the start of this part. So you have this, and then you have this part. So there you start the next part by playing this pull off that you played before, where you have the open D string and the second fret of the G string. You plug them both together, and then you pull off, and then you play the open G string again. And then you have this part. So there you change to a regular C major chord, and you start by playing these two notes. You plug them both together, the A string and the D string. And then you have this, where you play the G string and then the B string, and then you slap and ring the chord all the way up till the high E string. And then you have this, where you're playing the B string and then the G string, like that. So far on the C major chord you have this. I'll play it really slowly. And after that you have this part. So there in the end you're just playing the A string, G string and then the B string. And then you're ringing the chord with a slap all the way up till the high E string. Like that. So the entire thing sounds like this. So if you play the whole thing from the start of the chorus, you have this. And after that, all you have to do is you just have to repeat this whole thing. So it sounds like this. And after the chorus, the song goes back into the pre-chorus, but this time you play the pre-chorus with the percussion. So it sounds like this. So you already know the notes. It's the exact same notes that you have to play on the left hand. So on the left hand, nothing changes. On the right hand, you just have to add the slap. So there you have the same thing. You have this first, and then you slap. And then you continue playing the same exact notes. And then you have the pull off, the same thing. And after that you have this. So you start by playing this part, the same thing. And then you ring the chord with a slap. And then you end with the slap again. So from the start you have this. And then you have this part. So there you start off with this. So the same thing that you played before, you just have to include the slap. And then you have this part. So there again you play this first, and then you have this part. So you play this, and and then you ring the chord with the slap, and then you go back to playing the arpeggio and end with a slap. So from the start you have this, and then you just repeat this whole thing. It's exactly the same. And after that the song goes back into the chorus, which is exactly the same thing that you played before. And after that the song goes into the outro, which sounds like this. So you start by playing an E minor chord where you have the 2nd fret of the A string and the 2nd fret of the D string. And you start by playing this, where you're playing the low E string first, which is open, and then the A string and then the D string. And then you have this, where you play the G string, then the D string and then the A string. So you have this, and then you change to this chord, where you're just holding down the low E string, the 3rd fret there. And you also have the open D string and the open G string. So you're playing the low E string and then the D string and then the G string. Like that. And then you have this part. And after that you change to a C major chord where you're playing the 3rd fret of the A string, the 2nd fret of the D string and the 1st fret of the B string. So you start by playing this, where you play the A string, then the G string and then the B string. And then you play this, where you play the high E string, then the B string and then the G string. Like that. So the whole thing sounds like this. And then you just repeat. So if you play the whole part, it sounds like this. And after that you just repeat. So that's the whole outro. I'm going to play it once. It sounds like this. So that's the whole song. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope this helped. All the tabs for this lesson are available on my Patreon page. If you'd like to see more videos like this one, then subscribe to my channel. Also, if you have any questions or requests for song tutorials, let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. I'll see you in the next video.